Welcome to the Mighty Emotions podcast. I'm your host, Giselle. I'm a certified emotions coach, and I teach you how to respond better to your emotions so you can feel better in your life. My mission is to show you how to work with your emotions to become more emotionally resilient. Your emotions are not designed to overpower you, they're designed to empower you. On this podcast, I share what our emotions are, how to understand them and work with them, and the tools you need to reclaim your power and get unstuck from emotional pain so you can find fulfillment in your life again. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get into the episode. Hello, Mighty Emotions community. Welcome back to another episode. Today is a really exciting one because I have gotten a question from one of you in my inbox, and I'm going to answer it on today's podcast, coaching style. So, by the way, if you ever have a question for me, you'd like my advice on something that you're struggling with, please send me an email at mightyemotions@gmail.com. Info will be in the description of the episode, but definitely reach out for support. I'm more than happy to have a one-on-one session with you free if you've never worked with me. Also, more than happy to answer it on the podcast like I'm doing today, because I think that if you're going through it, someone else is going through it. If I'm going through it, someone else is going through it. So it's so important that we have these conversations, and that's why this podcast is here, so that we can get to understand ourselves better, even if it's through listening to somebody else talk about what they're going through, right? That's why I have the guests on now. And so definitely send me an email. You can just have the subject line be blank, or you can just put help in the subject line, advice, whatever. Keep it generic. And I'm more than happy to answer it for you. Know that obviously it's going to be generalized because I don't know your specific circumstances and situations, but helpful nonetheless, hopefully. So this person writes, I just started listening to the Mighty Emotions podcast. Thank you. And I'm really trying to get connected with my emotions. Every time I start to focus more on my emotions and try not to put others' needs above my own, I literally just have mental breakdowns and I'm constantly terrified. I know I used to hide my emotions as a safety mechanism, but I don't know how to get over it now. Even though I'm not in the same situation, I can't seem to change this reaction. Do you have any advice? I just want to acknowledge the bravery it takes to reach out for support, the incredible self-awareness you have to say, I know that this is something I do to protect myself, and I'm not in the same situation, but I'm stuck with the same behavior. And I wanted to highlight that because that is so normal. That is so logical. Of course you're stuck with the same behavior, because changing our behavior is this really deliberate thing, this deliberate action that we take. But if we have struggled with dealing with our emotions, that's going to obstruct our ability to move forward and to take certain action. A lot of times you'll hear personal development coaches and wellness coaches say, well, you control your behavior, you control your thoughts, etc. We know here in the Mighty Emotions community that it's more nuanced than that, and that if we're struggling with certain emotions that we don't want to deal with, that can physically block us from taking action. So I want you to remember that fact. I want you to remember that that's human of you, and to be kind to yourself and gentle with yourself as you begin to make these new changes in your life, right? So I want to go back to the beginning of this. I'm trying to get connected with my emotions. Amazing. It's such an important skill. All of us need to have it. Every time I start to focus more on my emotions and try not to put others' needs above my own, I literally just have mental breakdowns. So here's what I want to say about that. How are you focusing on your emotions? I want you to remember that the emotions are not the stories and the feelings that we have in our mind about why something happened or the details of it, the explanation of it, our opinion of it. Our emotions are physical sensations in our body that signal for us that we have unmet needs. So when we focus on our emotions, when I talk about focusing on our emotions, I'm talking about focusing on how we are physically feeling. What is our physical experience? Getting really, really present and and attuned and connected with our physical bodies, right? So think about if you've ever gone for a massage and gotten really just an amazing massage, and you were just so present with how your body felt, and you got up from the table like a limp noodle because you were just so in the moment. What happens when we have an emotional reaction that we're not familiar with our emotions, so we don't feel safe with them, is we get out of the moment. We take ourselves out of the moment. And that's actually the time to get really in the moment and practice that mindfulness of tuning into our body and what it's experiencing and sitting with that discomfort for a moment. Just sitting with it, sitting with the physical discomfort, just saying, I'm going to honor this right now. I'm uncomfortable and I'm going to honor it right now. Where is that discomfort in my body? Is it in my lower region? Is it in my chest? Is it in my shoulder? Is there pain? Is there tension? Where do I feel discomfort? Put your hands on your body, touch your legs, touch your arms, touch your shoulders, put your hand over your heart. Get connected to yourself in that moment. Sometimes, depending on the emotion, and I go into this in more detail in my book, but sometimes we need to move our bodies, right, to get that energy to flow, right? So sometimes we want to move, but we don't need to move really quickly. Exercise can be great, cardio can be great, all of that, shaking it out can be great. Sometimes we want to move really slowly. We want to walk really slowly from one end of a space to the other. We want to almost be in slow motion in everything that we do, really tuning into the physical sensations that we're experiencing. Because what we need to do before we start to fix, before we start to go to, okay, how do I need to act differently? We need to get our nervous system grounded. We need to get grounded in our bodies. We need to have a regulated nervous system. Our emotions are a signal in our nervous system that go, oh, it's an internal alarm. And when it's activated, when it's turned on, we want to be frantic. We want to rush, especially feeling terrified, that fear. It's that surge of adrenaline and all of those hormones. So we want to practice slowing down, whether it's moving, whether it's sitting, but observing. And knowing that that sensation is not here to harm you. It is bringing you information. It is information. That is all it is. That there's a misalignment somewhere in your life. It's not information that something's wrong with you. It's not information that something's wrong with the person you're dealing with necessarily. It's simply information that something is out of alignment. There's disharmony somewhere in your life. So slow down enough to really become aware and present with that discomfort so that you can get to a place of going, well, where is the misalignment? What is out of alignment? Which of my core needs are not being met? Remember, we have 4 core needs: a need for freedom, a need for safety, a need for meaning, and a need for connection. And if we go through those 4 things, where are my needs not being met? Do I not feel free? Do I feel restricted? Do I not feel safe? Am I in harm in some way, either physically or mentally? Am I not in my purpose? Am I not creating? Am I not being useful and contributing in some way, right? Or am I disconnected from myself? Have I not spent any time with myself? Am I having trouble being present with the people I'm with? Am I always in my mind, because I don't feel safe, and that's my safe place? I hide in the mind. Is that what's going on? That's important to look at, but we can't look at that until we have grounded into our bodies. So if you're in a situation where you maybe can't move, you're maybe stuck from, you're seated, or you're in a place where you can't get outside, there are different things that you can do. You can rub your wrists one at a time, right? You can hum internally, closing your eyes and humming. You can have a little sensory break by closing your eyes and plugging your ears with your fingers for a moment and just really tuning into your heartbeat. So there are these different techniques that you can do to help you with this. And these are usually things that I teach my clients, but I'll also share some of these in my book as well. So know that nothing is wrong with you, to the person who wrote in this question, for, struggling with this new way of being. This is not your default. Your default, like you mentioned, is to hide, right? Either hide your emotions from others or hide them from yourself. So I want you to start not hiding them from yourself. I want you to start honoring them, acknowledging them, looking at them with compassion and kindness and gratitude, because they're information, right? They're neutral. They're not positive, they're not negative, they're just information. That discomfort is a signal, right? And we can just learn to become comfortable with that discomfort by becoming comfortable with our bodies and getting safety within our bodies. And then when it comes to getting over this behavior, changing this behavior, not being in the same situation, but reacting the way you've always reacted. Again, that's what we're meant to do. Our subconscious is programmed. Here's how you react to this type of situation. And that's going to be the default behavior. And we don't need to necessarily change that or stop that from happening. What we start to do is notice when it's happening and decide in that moment, okay, this is happening. I'm reacting in this way. How can I respond differently? How do I want to respond differently? What do I want in this situation? Right? Asking ourselves that. How can I take care of myself right now? And then what am I responsible for here? What do I need to do? Sometimes the needs of others do need to come above our own needs. However, we need to remember what our needs are and remember that we are responsible for getting them met. So again, going back to safety, freedom, meaning, and connection, always asking ourselves, what can I do to get this need met? What is a healthy way that I can get this need met? And putting ourselves back into a position of power, right? We all have this personal power within us to say, okay, I'm going to take care of myself now. I'm going to take care of myself now. Maybe not in this exact moment. Maybe in this moment, someone else needs me, but maybe I need to also let that person down in this moment because I don't have the capacity. And there might be stories that come up to be released about being responsible for how other people feel. That's a huge lie that we tell ourselves when we're huge people pleasers, is that I'm responsible for how you feel. My behavior is what makes you feel a certain way. But when we learn to understand our own emotions and understand that they really come from within us, they're signals from within us, and that it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves and get those needs met, not meaning that we don't ask for support. That's part of getting our needs met, right? But we ask for support from the right sources, right? We're deliberate and intentional about who we get support from. And so sometimes we have to be honest with the people in our lives and say, look, right now, I'm not in a position where I can help you get these needs met. Is there another way? Right now, I really need to focus on myself. Right now, I really need to do something for myself. Can this wait till later? Whatever it is. But we're not going to change our entire, subconscious reprogramming in one sitting. It's not going to be done. It's in the moment when we recognize that reaction. Okay, this is happening now. This isn't how I want it to be happening. How can I respond differently? And just doing one small but mighty step differently. That really makes a huge, huge impact over time because it compounds. Because when we do that small shift, we notice that, oh, we're okay. Okay, I'm okay. I did this and I'm okay. And then we do it again and we do it a little bit more. And over time, we've changed. How we've interacted with others, how we've interacted with the world changed, how we react to the world has changed because we chose to respond differently, and that reprogrammed our default reactions. Again, I go into this in more detail in my book, but just to summarize, based on what this person has asked me here, I first of all, show yourself compassion, right? Give yourself grace and compassion for starting over now. This is a moment, this is an opportunity for you to do things differently, for you to show up differently, but it doesn't need to happen all at once. Start by, if you want to connect to your emotions, start by connecting to those physical sensations in your body, getting familiar with it, being present in your body, right? Really, really tuning into that. When you feel grounded, that is when you can ask yourself, okay, how do I want to respond here? How do I want things to be differently here? Know that there's nothing wrong with how you're feeling. It's just clearly an indication. I mean, me reading this, it's clearly an indication that your needs have gone unmet for a long time. So really, really thinking about where you need safety, where you need freedom, where you need meaning, and where you need connection. And what are some ways, brainstorming some ways that you think those things can get met in your life, and start taking the actions to do that. It's going to make such a huge difference. It's not done in these grandiose things. It's not done in one session. It's done in these incremental, intentional decisions that we make and steps that we take that lead ultimately to the change that we're seeking, right? I want to highlight for the person who wrote into me and for all of the listeners that giving ourselves compassion, being gentle with ourselves, letting ourselves be human is always, always, always the most important step. Don't beat yourself up because this is how you behave. There's nothing inherently wrong with you for having these mental breakdowns. It's just the way you're approaching your emotions right now, and that gets to change. So release kind of that, feeling of, oh, I'm something's wrong with me for handling things this way. No, you're doing the best that you can with what you have, and you're taking care of yourself in the best way that you know how up until now. And I hope that something in this episode has started the wheels turning so that you're like, okay, well, there's a better way for me to take care of myself now. I get to take care of myself differently now. And that's all. That's all, right? You get to take your power back. You get to own your emotions, own your experiences, and make the intentional, mighty decisions, small but mighty decisions that are going to lead to the peace that you want, to the freedom that you want, to the meaning, to the connection, to the safety that you deserve. But it's going to happen incrementally over time with practice, especially if you're doing it on your own. So I always recommend, whether it's through me or it's another supportive source that can hold you accountable, that can be a sounding board, to get support, to reach out, just like you did by sending me this email. And taking that first step is huge, and it's not something that people easily do at times. So kudos to you for doing that. For anyone who's listening who might be struggling with the same thing, this advice applies to you as well. Know that you're a human. Know that it is okay. Know that it gets to change. You get to change. From this point moving forward, take some of this information and start to slowly apply it to your life. Not all at once, right? But really think about, okay, what's the priority today? What's the priority in this moment? And approaching things from moment to moment to moment, it really adds up over time. So with that, I want to remind you again that my book is going to break all of this down for you in far more detail. I'm really excited for you guys to have it. It's going to be a tool that you can return to over and over and over. And I have some other stuff that's going to come out afterwards that's going to, be able to provide that ongoing support. But definitely, if you are wanting to learn how to stand in your personal power, connect to your emotions, start getting your needs met and taking care of yourself, that's why I'm writing this book, because it's everything that I wish I had known, but I'm so glad that I know now and I'm able to share through my experience as well as through the things that I've learned, which is all cited in the book. So really excited for you to read that. It comes out August 2023. I don't have the exact date yet, but it will be out this summer if you're listening to this in 2023. And I know that it's going to be such an amazing tool for you to just remember that it's okay, that you're human, and that we all get like this sometimes, but we don't need to stay this way, right? There is a solution, there is resolution, and we do recover, we do heal, right? As they say in my 12-step circles. So with that, thank you for listening. I really hope that this episode helped you in some way. And feel free to write in if you'd like me to give advice on something that you're struggling with specifically. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It would mean so much if you could subscribe, leave a review, share with your friends and family, and let me know what you think by going to my Instagram at mighty_emotions and connecting with me and letting me know what you loved about today's episode. It really means a lot that you support this podcast, and I love coming to you each week with a new episode. So be sure to subscribe, let me know what you think, and take care of yourself.